make whispered ASMR videos. You can probably tell by the title of this video, I am going to be talking about all of the books that I've read this year. I've read 15 books this year, and my goal was 25, but I'm in like a reading slump, so I feel like I'm just gonna end up at 15 for the year, and that's all. So, without further ado, I haven't really planned this video. I've been having a really hard day. I've been having like digestive issues over the past like month or so I have to get it checked out, but it's just been like really frustrating. Yeah, I haven't really planned this video, so I'm just gonna go on my Goodreads and look at the books that I've read and talk about them, like what they're about, if I'd recommend them, and what I'd give them out of 5. Okay, so the first book that I read this year was I'll Get Back to You by Pekka Grishow, and it's basically a lesbian romance novel. It's actually a holiday romance novel, and I had never read any kind of holiday romance before, but my fiance read this and she said it was really good, so I was like, okay, I'll read it real quick. But yeah, it's like 2 former classmates, they like see each other and they decide to do like a fake dating thing, and then they end up catching feelings for each other. And I'm not big on romance because I feel like sometimes it can be really like cringy and like unrealistic, but I really like this book. I felt like it went deeper than most other romances that I've read, so I would recommend it if you're into reading romance, or if you're into like queer novels. I think you would like it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Next book is called Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio, and I didn't really like this one, unfortunately. It's a horror novel and it's really short, and when I saw it in the new arrivals at the library, I was like, that sounds like it would be really good. Basically, it's about these people, I think there are 5 of them, who they all work the night shift, and they all meet for like a cigarette break at night in a graveyard, and they realize that there's like an empty grave, and so they try to figure out like how that happened, or like what's happened with that. And yeah, I liked it, the writing style. I think the author is very talented. I just didn't like the plot, I guess. I like watching horror movies, but I feel like I never can connect with horror novels. I really like Grady Hendrix, but other than that, I feel like I always have a hard time like getting into horror. And this one just proves that to me because I didn't really like it. But I'm not sure I'd recommend this book. A lot of people like it, so I'm not going to dismiss that. But if you're into horror, maybe you would like this book. I gave it a 3 out of 5. The next book that I read is one of my new favorites. It's called Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. And maybe I'm biased because I'm a huge fan of Japanese Breakfast. I actually saw them live this year. But I just thought the book was so beautifully written, and I ended up listening to the audiobook because Michelle herself reads the audiobook to you. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna listen because I think that's a better experience than reading. But yeah, basically she talks about like growing up as, I think they use the term Asian. I don't know if she even said that in the book, but that's a term that a lot of people use because her father is white and her mom is Korean. So she talks about like growing up being mixed, and like she talks about losing her mother because her mom passed away. It seemed like in a sudden way, like she just got sick all of a sudden and then she passed away. It's so sad. But I think that she also talks a lot about like her identity and like her coming into her career and like having to deal with grieving with her mom and all of that. It's just so like good and very like relatable. I would recommend this to anyone who's into like memoirs. Even if you're not into memoirs, you probably would like this book a lot. It was so good. I gave it a 5 out of 5. The next book that I read is called The Family Experiment by John Mars. And if you don't know John Mars, he wrote The One, which is like a sci-fi novel. And in The One, basically, it's like someone invented a match service that like picks up on this like one piece of your DNA that could be matched with someone else who could be your soulmate. And so the book was really good. It was like my favorite sci-fi novel that I've ever read. I love John Mars. But this is the 5th novel that he's written in that universe, and I've read 4 of them. There's one that I just can't get my hands on, can't find it at the library, can't find it on my Kindle, I can't find it, so I haven't been able to read it, but this was like the most recent, and it's the 5th novel in that universe. And in this one, they've invented like an AI child, essentially. Like, you have a child, but like you are able to take care of the child. Like, it's very realistic. So it kind of like, it raises questions about AI, but it also raises questions about like society and how we view raising children, and like the ethical dilemma of like having a baby that's not really real but is very realistic at the same time, and like what would laws look like that protect AI generated people or AI generated children. So I really liked this. If you watched my other video about my favorite books from last year, if you like Annie Bot, you probably would like John Mars' work. So yeah, if you're into like sci-fi or like social commentary, but like in a roundabout way, you probably would really like John Mars' work, and I would recommend reading The Family Experiment. I gave it a 5 out of 5. Okay, the next book, I actually listened to it. It was called Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. And everyone on all my book groups and everything kept saying, listen to the audio version if you have the chance. So I did. And oh my god, it was so good. Basically, it's about this girl, and everyone from her hometown thinks that she killed her best friend. But she says she didn't kill her best friend. And then a podcaster comes to the town and starts asking people questions because he wants to get to the bottom of who killed her best friend. And the podcast element makes the audiobook like so much cooler, and like there's different character voices. Like, it's so good. I would 100% recommend it. And like everyone else said, if you have the chance to listen to the audiobook, definitely do it. I listened to it on Libby. I was waiting to listen to it for like a couple months, but I listened to it on Libby and I was obsessed. But I gave it a 5 out of 5. Next, I listened to Drew Afwalo's book Loud, and she reads it also in her audiobook, so I was like, I'm gonna listen to it since she reads it. But basically, this book talks about like growing up as a girl who is outspoken, and like all of the trouble that she's had to go through because of that, and then like all of the trouble into adulthood that she's had because of it, and like in her career as like an influencer, like content creator, like all the blowback that she's gotten, and how she feels that even though she's gotten so much blowback, it's still important to stand up for yourself, to be outspoken, to stand up for others. And I thought that this was such an empowering book. I really liked it, and I think Drew is really funny, so that just like added to it. So I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5, and I would recommend it, especially if you're someone who watches Drew's videos. You probably would like the book a lot. And read it. By Sherry Frankie. And if you don't know, there was a woman named Ruby Frankie who had a YouTube channel called 8 Passengers where she vlogged her life and her family life and, you know, whatever. And she ended up, like, there were a lot of allegations against her, and that's when I first started hearing about this story. And then she ended up getting arrested because 2 of her children were found in, like, really awful conditions, and one of them had escaped. And so Ruby Frankie's in jail now, probably for a long time. I can't remember what she was sentenced to, but Sherry is the oldest, I believe, or maybe the second oldest. I'm not sure. I read the book and I can't, like, remember for some reason. Basically, she talks about instances of abuse that she suffered at the hands of her mother, like living in her house. And she talks a lot about, like, what it's like to have a mother who is obsessed with getting content. And, like, she talked about different moments where, like, you know, one of them would be crying and she would say, okay, can you do that again for the camera? Or if one of them said, oh, I don't really feel like being on camera today, she would say that they were ungrateful. And, like, you know, she was just very controlling and abusive. And I really liked Sherry's story. I gave it a 4 out of 5, but I don't know why I gave it a 4 out of 5. I probably would give it a 5 out of 5. But anyway, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you are someone who has, like, watched content about Ruby Frankie or the 8 Passengers YouTube. I would definitely say that it's important to see it from the victim's point of view, if that makes sense. And that's why I read it, and I definitely don't regret reading it. And if you aren't going to read the book, I would also recommend just following Sherry Frankie online, or, like, just seeing, like, interviews that she's done so that you can hear what she had to say. But yeah, next book that I read is called Sandwich by Catherine Newman. This book was really hard for me to get into. I don't know why. Like, it took me like 2 or 3 months to read it, which isn't normal for me. Like, I usually take like a week to read a book, so it took me a while, and it was pretty short, so that was like shocking. But also I was in school at the time, so maybe that's part of it. But usually I just read books quick. But basically it's about this woman, and she's in her 50s, I want to say, and her family goes to the Cape, or Cape Cod, every summer. I'm from Massachusetts, so I just call it the Cape. But this time around, she has to, like, confront her traumas that she's been through, and, like, there's also some, like, family drama that comes into the story. And, like, it was a good read, I will say. Like, if I had read it over the course of a week, I probably would have liked it more. But I do think it was funny at a lot of points, and I'm a sucker for a good family drama book. So yeah, I really liked it. I would recommend it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I will say though, like, as a trigger warning, that it talks about miscarriage in the book. So if you don't, like, want to read books about stuff like that, it's mentioned a lot in the book. Another audiobook that was read by the author that I just had to listen to is My Time to Stand by Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I hope I said her last name right. But yeah, basically this whole book, I wonder if Gypsy will write another book, because basically she talked about the abuse that she suffered at the hands of her mother, but she also talked about, like, growing from it, and, like, being in prison for unaliving her mother. Sorry, I couldn't find the right word. For unaliving her mother, or, like, plotting to unalive her mother, basically, is what she was in jail for. So I think all of us pretty much know about her and her story, and I just wanted, like, to hear it from her, I guess. So I got it from the library. And yeah, I still feel like I don't really know where to stand on the whole situation. I do think that she just was trying her best to survive. I think that's the best way I'll put it. And yeah, there's no denying that she was put through some really horrific abuse. So yeah, when I say I don't know where I stand on the situation, I don't know where I stand on her fame, you know, because I do wonder, like, what it means for our society when we make someone who plotted to unalive their mother famous. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Like, maybe she does deserve the fame. I don't know. I'm still on the fence. But I definitely know for certain that she felt like there was no other way out, and that she did that because of that. So, you know, reading it from her point of view, I'm grateful that she shared her story. I don't know if I would recommend it. Like, if you are someone who's like me and you're on the fence, you probably won't like this book. But if you do want to know more about Gypsy's experiences, then you would like the book. And I gave it a 4 out of 5. This book that I read was for my anthropology class, and it's called Tell Me How It Ends, an essay in 40 questions by Valeria Luiselli. I would recommend this to literally anybody who is willing to read it. It is a very short book, maybe like 60 pages. Valeria Luiselli worked as a translator for children who immigrated here from Latin America, and she had to ask them questions like, you know, did anyone hurt you on the way here? Did anyone hurt you here? Did you feel like anyone discriminated against you while you're here? And she talks about asking these questions, what most kids say, what the statistics look like for children who like actually cross the border. It's just something that like I feel like a lot of us don't really think about, because like we are facing like a deportation crisis, I guess you would say. So I feel like a lot of people just think like, well, look at the numbers or like whatever, but like we don't get to hear about individual stories as much, because I think that a lot of people don't understand the immigration crisis. And so I think this book kind of opened my eyes a bit to the experiences of children who come here. But yeah, definitely recommend reading it. But yeah, would recommend this 100%. I gave it a 5 out of 5. The next book that I read was Under the Bridge by Rebecca Godfrey, and I was so excited to read this. I could not find it at the library. Like, I tried to put it on hold, and it was like a year until I would get it, so I was like, I'm just gonna buy it on Amazon. I kind of regret it, I'm not gonna lie. So if you've never heard of Under the Bridge, it's also a show on Hulu, and it is about the unaliving of Rena Firk. She was a 14-year-old girl who lived in Victoria in Canada, and she was basically lured to a party where she was jumped by her friends. And two people, Kelly Ellard and Warren Glowatsky, dragged her to the water and drowned her after she had been jumped. I was really excited to read this book because I am a communications student, and I guess like the whole idea of like Rebecca Godfrey being a journalist who like came to Victoria to like find out as much as she could about the story, it made me like intrigued. But the book was just not, I think by the standards of the time when she wrote it, it was good, but like of today's standards, she did not talk Rena, like hardly. She talked a little bit about Rena's family, but it seemed like, I don't know, maybe she couldn't gather enough information about Rena. She couldn't get people who wanted to talk about Rena. Instead, she got people who wanted to talk about Warren, and I felt like she was like romanticizing Warren's life and like him being homeless and him being an angry kid, but he's so beautiful and innocent and pure. Like, that really annoyed me. And if you watched the show for Under the Bridge, it's not the same at all. Like, in the show, it shows Rebecca like being there, like while everything's being investigated, and she's giving information to the police, and she's talking to Warren, and she goes and drops acid with Warren. None of this happened in real life. Like, she heard about Rena's unaliving, and she reached out to Warren and Kelly and everybody involved, and just got interviews and pieced together this fantastical story. Like, I don't know, man. I think that it's messed up. Personally, as a communication student and hopefully future journalist, I would not write something like this. Like, I know that you want to talk about the murder that happened, but like, talk about the victim. What the heck? Like, I don't know, man. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I would not recommend it. If you like, I don't know, if you watch the show and you're interested in reading the book, it's not the same. Okay, so for the last 4 books that I've read this year, they're all short stories. Because I just feel like I haven't had the capacity to like continuously read a book lately. So it's just been all short stories. But this one is called What Does It Feel Like by Sophie Kinsella. And I really liked this book. It basically talks about a woman who, she just wakes up one day and she's having a really hard time with her memory. She can't remember how she ended up in the hospital. She can't remember her last doctor's appointment or any surgeries that she's been through. But she slowly, like, I don't want to say that her memory comes back, but like, it starts to get better. Like, her short-term memory starts to get better, and then, you know, she starts to come to accept that she doesn't really remember things anymore, and it feels like each day is just like, one day she's conscious and like she remembers everything, and the next day she doesn't. And I liked the book. It felt like a feel-good story, but then at the end, the author said the story is basically about her and what her life looked like, and I was like, oh my god, like, I wish she had led with that, honestly. But yeah, that like changed my outlook on the story. Like, this happened to a real person. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I would recommend it if you like feel good stories, but it is also really sad, so keep that in mind. This book is a horror novel, and it's called Ushers by Joe Hill, and it's basically about these detectives who are investigating a shooting that happened on a train. And before the shooting happened, or maybe it's not a shooting and maybe it was like an explosion or something, but anyway, before people on the train died, this man had gone up to a girl and her mom and said, you guys don't want to get on that train, take the next one. And so once the detectives heard about this, they're like interviewing him and asking him questions to try to figure out what his connection is. And it's not what you would expect at all, and it was just such a good like plot twist, a good story. Even though it was short, it kept me like continuously reading. Like, I think I read it in like a couple hours, but I was like, this is really good. So I would definitely recommend if you're into like horror, psychological thrillers, supernatural. Well, not sure I would say supernatural. I don't know. But yeah, if you like that kind of thing, I think you'd like it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. This book I read was Taylor Jenkins' Read. The Evidence of the Affair is the name of the book. Again, a short story. But basically, suspects that her husband is having an affair. So she sends a letter to the man who is married to the woman who she thinks they're having an affair. And basically they go back and forth. She sends him proof and etc. They end up meeting up and everything. And there were a lot of plot twists in this, and I really liked it. I usually like Taylor Jenkins Reid, to be fair, so I really like this story. I gave it a 4 out of 5. If you like romance, you might like this, but I also feel like it's more of like a contemporary fiction book, so if you like that kind of thing, you probably would like it. It's a short story, easy to get into. Yeah. Last book that I read, another short story, is called The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren. And I've read Christina Lauren novels before. It's two best friends who write them. I think that's so cute. But basically this is like a romance, and it's about how these two strangers, like one accidentally emails the other, like they're meant to send it to someone else on Valentine's Day, and then they start doing it every year. They email someone on Valentine's Day, and then they have like a will they won't they kind of thing going on, and then they finally like realize, like meet in person, I guess you would say. And I really liked